edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. I'm your host, Paul Shaughnessy, joined in studio by my friend and yours, Mr. Cody Saftic, breaking down UFC Austin from the great state of Texas.
Great state.
But before we even get into that, we have a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for?
A curse going.
A crisis or a curse. I guess that's another C word. I'm 0-5 on main events. So anybody who's looking, I know, I had Romero last week. He missed weight. Think about all the times that you have like championship fights and people in championship fights. I kept thinking about like Pettis against Holloway in Toronto, and Pettis misses weight, and then he just goes out and has a dog shit performance. Like, that's what I was thinking. I thought that was, I was here saying that I thought it was going to be close between the two of them, and I should have just, looked at the fact that like the last 8 people who have missed weight have all won their fights recently.
And if I can interject very quickly, you are notorious for writing to the people on the interwebs, man, don't buy too much into the weigh-ins. You always say that. You're always like...
Last week I really bought into the weigh-ins.
You said, I've been owned in the past switching picks because I see the weigh-ins and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that was a different situation.
And then you switch. The curse just followed you. It didn't matter. If you would have stayed on Romero, he would have gone in with a broken leg and it would have affected his performance.
The guy had a broken leg, like when he had the interview,
Ridiculous.
Like all of a sudden he had to sit on the ground, but like seconds before that he was up in Rockhold's grill giving him a kiss.
You know what's funny too is that he's like, I think I broke my leg in the first round, but in the second round he's running forward. Like, how would you break your leg and then just rush forward?
The guy's an absolute specimen.
He is a specimen.
But what I do want to say,
the curse continues.
You know
you
how
cursed me.
I know I did. I wish you good luck. Literally before that main event.
Say la vie, Paul.
Cody had a big bet on Rockhold.
Well, I had a parlay that needed Rockhold.
I mushed it so hard on him. But what I was gonna actually say is that. I have Donald Cerrone. Before we even get it, I have Donald Cerrone. I just think he's a little bit more technical in this fight, and he's a little bit more well-rounded. Obviously not as tough. Yancey could put him away. So I put up this little poll last night, and lo and behold, Tim Anderson, the Ander curse, who doesn't really follow all that much MMA, he just usually tries to curse my bets or people that I'm really high on, and it doesn't usually work most of the time. So it is what it is. But I put the poll out. I said, "Who you got?" And he responded immediately. It was like a message from the curse gods coming down, trying to right the wrongs. He's got Yancy Medeiros. I've got Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So it's the Ander curse versus Shag Fade in the main event here.
You're saying that the play would be the draw. Or the no contest if you got that available on your books.
Whatever the draw pays. Frankly, I think the most popular bet on this card along the way seems to be just the over. Or the over, not even the over. The fight doesn't go the distance. I think it's been pushed up to like minus 260 or something at this point. But like the way these two guys fight, the fact that Donald, if you take him out early on, he can get swarmed, and he doesn't react well to any of that. But if you start to let him fight his fight, that's when he really puts it on you. It's like Matt Brown. It's like Matt Brown came out, gave him some hot fire at the beginning of the fight, and then as time goes on, when Cowboy starts finding his range, it's a different ballgame.
So let's talk about that, though. Yancy Medeiros is not a guy that's going to let him get into a comfort zone. You're talking about guys that go out there and swarm. Yancy Medeiros seems to, at least at 170 pounds, output for days. He gets in your face. He's aggressive. He's still super long and rangy at welterweight. The things that Donald Cerrone's been struggling against, a lot of those things are what Yancy proposes.
Except Yancy doesn't really have the kicking game.
He doesn't have the power.
I understand what you're saying in terms of like southpaws and everything like that, but the kicking game. It's like if it's a southpaw boxer, Robbie Lawler, Cowboy looked completely satisfactory in that fight against Robbie Lawler not that long ago.
He looked good in that fight, but at the same time, you see moments where Cowboy is not as durable as he used to be. There used to be a time where Cowboy goes in there, he's hanging out in an RV, he's wakeboarding the night before, he's drinking some Budweisers, he's going down there and he's kicking some ass. Him in Texas especially, there'd be a time where it's like, oh man, you and I were even joking before the show started. Yancy Medeiros in a main event, like how crazy does that seem? Whereas Cowboy, it's like, this is his home, this is where he should be. But now on the strength.
It's not really his home. He's from Colorado.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though. Main events are his home, right?
He's got a cowboy hat, so he just seems like he fits in Texas.
Yeah, but he's marketable.
From our Canadian mindset.
Yeah, that's true. But all I'm saying is now he's on, I was going to say on the strengths of a 3-fight losing streak, but it's on the weakness of a 3-fight losing streak. He's not the same cowboy that he used to be. Whereas, flip side to that, you can make the arguments that Yancy Medeiros, as I mentioned, at 170 pounds, he's really come into his own. I don't mind Cowboy. I think the value's pretty good on him. I kind of am leaning towards the fact that how is he going to lose a 4th fight in a row? But if you recall, when we talked about the Darren Till fight, Cowboy's a slight favorite over Till. And you and I both were on the fact that Cowboy, rightfully so, should be the favorite, and the price is not
Who has
bad
Till
on
beaten?
Cowboy.
Till in his last... I'm
but
saying, like, that's what we were saying about
yeah.
it. Is like, Till hasn't beaten anybody.
He's only got 2 weapons.
He just came off of like a real close decision against Bojan Velichkovic.
Of course.
And he came out, swarmed him. The template is there. I totally see it.
And as soon as Till wins, and everyone's saying, wow, this guy should get a title shot. Oh, this guy should fight Usman.
Everyone's super high on Till, though. So it can't, is it Till's really good and he is in that upper echelon? Or is it Cowboys completely gone, completely swamped? Because I don't think it can really be both.
It can't be both, but at the same time, if Till goes out there with a regular mid-card guy or, just on the cusp of a top 15 ranked guy, and he beats him in empathetic fashion, then all of a sudden, oh, good win by Till, but I'm going to have to see more from him. I'm going to have to see something else. I'm going to have to see a couple more solid performances. But you beat a guy like Donald Cerrone, it's a big name, it's cachet. It's all of a sudden, wow, Till's opening our eyes. Yancy Medeiros is capable of going in and doing the same thing. If he goes out there and he puts hands on Cowboy, he gets to him early, he starts hitting him, all of a sudden he wins this fight. People are going to be talking about 4-fight winning streak, all at 170 pounds. Guy just beat Donald Cerrone in a headlining fight in Texas. Hey, Yancy Medeiros is a fun prospect. I don't know why people would call him a prospect at this stage of his career.
No.
But all the same, you'd kind of get some hype behind him. It's just I got to go back to the fact, once again, I am also going to take Donald Cerrone.
You're joining.
Even though I think you're cursed and you're about to go 0-6. Because that's your destiny, Paul.
No,
your destiny is to never get a main event
versus
right.
the Ender curse, though. We can't lose.
Yeah, that's
we
fair.
got this
That's
one.
fair. Who's the only person I know who's more cursed than you? Gotta be Tim. Gotta be Tim.
I'm only cursed on the main events.
Yeah, the way I look at it is it's easy to look at Yancy's last couple performances, and it's not against the best level of guys. I mean, that last fight with Cowboy, he's fighting back-to-back Cowboys, I guess you could make the joke of, but the last fight of Cowboy, I mean, yeah, he's getting hit in that fight. He's getting hurt in that fight. You look back to his other fights, Eric Silva, where's Eric Silva at? It's a lot of diminishing guys. But if you want to go back to his last couple fights at 155 pounds, the fight with John McDessie, which is a complete stinker, fights that he kind of gets, in his fight with Francisco Trinaldo, where he is getting bombed on, man. Like, he shows off a good chin in that fight. Didn't show a chin in the Poirier fight, but he's easy to hit because he's long and he's rangy and he doesn't really move his head.
Cowboy Oliveira in his last fight.
That's what I mean. He's super hittable, and for that reason, Donald Cerrone is a much better striker.
What if Cowboy
than
just comes across and just takes him down?
Well, and there's the other aspect.
I think that's also a path to victory that nobody's talking about. But like, I would not be shocked to see Donald stand there a little bit, all of a sudden shoot. Like, his wrestling. I said at the beginning, he's a much more well-rounded martial arts. I think I'm not going to be shocked if this goes either way, especially based on my main event picking history.
Well, I'm really not surprised if Yancy wins if you're back in Cerrone.
But I wouldn't be shocked if Donald Cowboy Cerrone goes out there, gets a takedown, and I think when he gets when he's on top, at least in those early rounds, like, I think he's going to be able to have his way with it.
Yeah, I got to agree. People also oftentimes talk about Donald Cerrone as how good of a striker is. This guy's a striker. But just look back his entire body of work. The guy is a good striker. Comes from that Muay Thai base. But it's always been his submissions. There was a time where he hardly had any knockout victories because he would hurt guys, get them down, finish the job on the ground. His own fight with Cowboy Oliveira. Takes him down, he owns him. Fight with Edson Barbosa. Drops him for 1 second, pounces on the ability that he can get this guy down. You talk about the Rick Story fight. You talk about the Patrick Cote fight. Those are big, strong, durable guys where it's like,
and he's taking on a guy.
I can take you down. I can knock you out. He's very well rounded. With Yancy Medeiros, I think a lot of the talk is
Medeiros gets dropped. He's super tough, but he gets dropped a lot.
Fair, but it seems like his cardio is fantastic. If this is scheduled for 5 rounds, It probably is the under on it going the distance, but if it gets into those later rounds and Donald Cerrone, who's fairly hittable himself, not as hittable, but if those volume strikes start to add up on him and he starts to get hit. And now you also mentioned the fact that take him out of his element by getting to him early, and that's something Yancey can do. However, I got to go with the fact that the price really isn't bad on Donald Cerrone. He's a lot more proven. He's been in this situation before. He knows his back's up against the wall and he needs a big victory here, and he's a lot more well-rounded. If this is strictly a striker versus striker matchup, he's got a great shot, but it's going to be dicey. But if this is a mixed martial arts contest and he's able to throw some of those other tools into play, you kind of got to lean towards a savvy veteran here.
Like, I think he knows, like, I can't. He must know now. It's like, I can't really take the punishment.
Yeah.
All that much anymore. I just got blasted by some kid I didn't even know the name of in my last fight. We got to switch up the game plan a little bit.
Of course. And as far as
UFC, can't just stand there and trade with these guys anymore.
As far as UFC matchmaking goes, you've got Donald Cerrone. You know, in a lot of people's minds, he's a legend. I wouldn't quite consider him a legend. He never won a title. However, he's been in the game for a long time. He's a big name fighter. You can either match this guy up with another big name, legendary fighter, and that's a fun fight. You can either match up this guy with a young, upstart, strong rookie who's going to build a name off of him, like Darren Till, or you can give him the Yancey Medeiros to the world, who's already 30 years old. He's already had some terrible performances in the UFC. We've seen Yancey Medeiros at his worst already, and he can go out there and he can beat him in front of Texas. It's a headliner. This is not a good headliner, boys. Let's admit it for what it is. However, it's a free card. We want to draw people in, and this fight's going to be exciting. Who cares where they're ranked? Who cares where they're going in the division? This is good matchmaking on the point of view that it's going to be a fun fight.
It's pretty hard to see this fight not being entertaining.
But if Cowboy wins, we can headline more of these fight nights with Cowboy. And if Yancey wins,
and give him some other up and comers, like give him. Once you get him a win, then you give him like Mike Perry or something like that.
Dude,
would you not be signed up for Mike Perry versus Don Cowboy Cerrone?
Of course, you know, sky's the limit, right? Because he can have those fun fights. Whereas Yancey can have fun fights too, but he's not the reason. Yancey's 3-fight winning streak and him having a fight of the year contender, those are all good, but that's not the reason he's in the main event. The reason he's in the main event is because he's fighting Cowboy Cerrone, and Cowboy Cerrone is worthy of that headlining slot. However, we've got to admit, and we've already talked about it, the 3-fight losing streak could very well be an indication that he's at the end of the line.
Yep.
But my last point on this is, if you look at Machida versus Eric Anders, that fight set up for a young upstart, 10-0, undefeated prospect to beat Lyoto Machida and to go on. However, fights could be set up like that. They're not always going to happen like that. Machida had something left in the tank. Maybe his chin wasn't as bad as we thought. Donald Cerrone might have something left in the tank. His chin might not be as bad as we're thinking it is. And so for -150, only $8,400 on DraftKings. DraftKings pricing makes a lot of sense because $8,400 is not that expensive.
Plus, we talked about the potential for him to come out and try to get some takedowns.
He's traditionally a very good scorer. He can win the fight standing. He can win the fight on the ground. He's got 5 rounds to work with, and a lot of people are indicating that this fight is probably not going to go the distance. So you're going to want one of these guys if you're trying to save money. Yancey's not the worst punt play out there. He really isn't. But for $8,400,
he's going to be a super chalk underdog, though.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think so.
I can see that.
Just because of the durability issues with Yancey Medeiros. Like, it's plain to see.
Yep,
Let's move on, though. We got Marcin Tybura taking on Derek Lewis. Marcin Tybura, 8,300 on DK, with Derek Lewis to be had for 7,900. -145 on the betting line. Tybura +125 Derek Lewis. And I'm going to say right now, if you have a real hot take about, I guarantee this guy's going to win in this fight, I'm going to call you a liar. Because it's heavyweights.
Pretty well matched.
Heavyweights are going to heavyweight. Marcin Tybura, traditionally very tough to take down. Good gas tank. Seems to have a good chin as well. Won 5 rounds with Fabricio Verdum in his last fight. Derek Lewis doesn't have a great gas tank, but he knows how to manage his energy. Sometimes his fights get really slow.
But hardly doing anything.
Even when he looks like dog tired, he can still get like a 4th round finish against Abdurakhimov. He was down 3 rounds in that fight. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but he's got to get on top to use that power for the most part. I mean,
and
he's got
big
power all the time.
Only a 3-round fight.
Only a 3-round fight, but that only almost favors him because when he's in a 5-rounder versus Mark Hunt, and I was all over Mark Hunt there. And yeah, I get that he got Shamil Abdurakhimov out in the 4th round, which was, thank God this was a 5-rounder. But this guy's got less gas than an electric car, man. like he can't go the distance. He can go the distance, but it's so sloppy.
I think Travis Brown fight,
it looked like he was going to dookie in his pants before finishing Travis Brown. He just doesn't look good. However, I don't know why. Watching tape on both guys, the more I'm thinking about it, think Derek Lewis got a shot here. Really
he definitely has a shot.
I think
That's
got
why
a good
I said,
shot.
like, if you have a hot take of either side, like,
both guys got
I think you got to see that, like, Derek Lewis hits so hard that he's always kind of in play, and I just don't know if he will, and he gasses. Marcin Tybura seems to be pretty smart. What I think he does here, and this is terrible for DraftKings, is I think he pushes him up against the cage.
No, 100% it's going to be cage.
Holds him up there, 100%. Tries to grind him down,
yeah.
Hopes that in round 2 and round 3, you can wear him down, try to get a 3rd round finish. That all sounds like not a very good scoring night for one Marcin Tybura. That's kind of what I would lean to. But if he's not able to do that, Derek Lewis pushes off, throws one of those massive meat cleavers over the top, hits that chin. The punch that he landed on Roy Nelson, which was like at the end of 3rd round, there's like nobody on earth that takes that shot
Only Roy
that
Nelson.
clean.
Yeah.
Like it was ridiculous how much Roy Nelson's head snapped back. So
that one punch won him the fight because I thought he lost that fight, but the judges were like, "Oh,
not much really happened.
Dude, how did he lose?"
And that was
fight?
someone trying to play the slow game with him. And if you don't do much with that slow game, he's not actually. Everyone always thinks he's this big stand-up striker. What he wants to do is get on top of you, and then he Donkey Kongs you.
Yeah, that's
like,
when he does his best work.
You.
Best work is when he's on top because you've got nowhere to go, and then he can just line you up with those big right hands. And he hits you a couple times. Listen, he's one of these guys that just has a superhuman amount of power. However, he doesn't necessarily set it up well. His footwork is traditionally atrocious. His gas tank, not very good. So why would anybody want to back Derek Lewis? When I think about this fight, Marcin Tybura's got all the tools. And you know what? His punches are not very crisp. I don't really like his ability to go out there and outbox him.
His kicks are crisp,
but his kicks are really nice, and that's a key to beating a guy like Derek Lewis. Is that he
kick him to the body, that slows him down even more.
Kick him in the leg, kick him in the body, and he wants to stay all the way out until similar to a Yoel Romero, only not half as fast and half as athletic. But he'll just explode. He waits, and he explodes with these big punches. But Tybura's hard to take out. He's hard to knock out. So even if he can explode on him and land a couple punches, it's not like we got a chinny heavyweight in there who he has a great shot at beating. We got a guy that don't mind playing the cage game. He will push you up against the cage. He'll kick you at distance. He'll outwork you. He's got a better gas tank. And for that reason, I'm initially thinking Marcin Tybura is not a bad play, especially when you look at the fact that he's only minus 145, not bad. But then I think about Derek Lewis, and what can Derek Lewis do in order to sway me a little bit? First of all, underdog, okay, I'll have a little look at it because we talk about this. Middling heavyweights that it could go either way. It's the Dogger Pass podcast for a reason.
These guys
man.
are both like ranked in the top 10.
Well, that's just how bad heavyweight is.
But
that's just how bad heavyweight is.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's from Texas, and the fight's in Texas. If it's going to be one of those slow, really lethargic paced fights like him versus Roy Nelson, and it's going to be a split decision, well, there's an entire possibility. And Texas is one of those commissions too where it might be like, guys from Poland, send them back to Poland. Why not give Derek Lewis the win if it's a close fight? But Derek Lewis actually looks to be in good shape. It actually looks like he's taking his training very seriously. And if he can just explode, we've been noticing this a lot in fights lately. You can outscore somebody. Look at Holm versus Cyborg. Cyborg's dominating. Holm's not really doing much, but all of a sudden it seems to be a close decision when you consider that it was 3-2 on 2 of the judges' scorecards. The Justine Kish fight, same thing. You just got to kind of throw those punches. And if Derek Lewis is a guy that's just being a little more active, he's throwing some punches, he's pushing Tybura back. Tybura can try to push Derek Lewis against the cage all day, and it might work, don't get me wrong. But Derek Lewis is also a very, very large human being who's very difficult to just control for the entire time. Even when he's on the ground. He's on the ground, he's not doing anything. And then there's a moment where Lewis is like, all right, time to get up now. And he just gets back up.
He's super strong.
He's super strong. And if he's been working on his cardio, and all indications is that he's putting in a tough camp, that he's working with he never really works with other ranked heavyweights, which does bother me.
Yeah.
But if he's in good shape, he can go out there and he can just make this a close fight, then there's a great possibility he gets the nudge on the scorecard. It's going to be a close fight. Like you say, do I have a hot take on someone's definitely going to win? No. But for some reason, on a card where a lot of the favorites look like they should be favorites, Derek Lewis is one of those guys where it's easy to write off because you just look at some of these fights and they're just so bad. But his best is yet to come. He's actually still fairly young. He is developing. And he's got a newfound confidence that just kind of builds. And I feel like he's got a shot here. Tybura is the more technical guy. The kick game could be huge for him, but the kick game could also get him in trouble. So I'm interested in seeing how this one plays.
I don't know if I want much of either one of these guys.
Not on DK.
On DK? No. Maybe a sprinkle. The problem is heavyweights are always super massively owned. So like even if you're in a tournament, so you want to be like overweight on one of these guys, right? But like heavyweights are always like 40, 50% owned. in tournaments. So it may not actually be a bad, if it ends up being this like up against the cage, slow paced, not many strikes, low volume type of fight, like this may not be a bad fate. Or Derek Lewis could come out, land one massive big shot, and he was, he ends up on an optimal lineup. Either way, it's an interesting fight to say the very least. Let's move on. We got James Vick taking on Francisco Massaranduba Trinaldo. James Vick, 9,000 on DK, with Trinaldo to be had for 7,200. Minus 230 on the betting line. Vick come back on Trinaldo, plus 190. Who do you like here?
There used to be a time where I used to think to myself, man, how does Trinaldo make 155? But now I think, man, how does Vick make 155?
He's massive.
He is so big. And he's one of those guys that as long as the weight cut goes well for him, I'm always a little bit worried about that. Because when you're that big and you're cutting that much weight, you never know if just one bad weight cut and you're feeling a little bit sick, that just throws everything off. But his last couple fights, it looks like he's cutting the weight well. It looks like his weight management is going accordingly. And the guy's top notch, man. I mean, I can't say he's one of the best 55s in the division because he's still got a little bit to prove, but he's certainly getting better. And we talk about confidence on a guy like Derek Lewis. Confidence on James Vick, off the charts, man. He's got a supreme confidence in himself. He's got the belief that he can hang with any of these guys. He wants to fight Dustin Poirier. He wants to fight Eddie Alvarez. He wants to be in contention. He'll fight any of these guys. But they keep feeding him these...
Well, nobody's signing the dotted line with him right now.
Yeah, because he doesn't really have much appeal. It's not like, oh, dude, James Vick, this is going to do a lot for me. It's like, man, I'm going to fight a guy who's a former pro boxer. His submission game is legit. His size is just unlike anything I've ever had to deal with before. And the fact is his cardio's good.
He's very loved in our like MMA community.
Well, he's also a really good guy.
On Twitter.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He likes betting. He goes on people's podcasts. He's big. He's big in the whole scene altogether. But I have not been on the money train with Vick, and a lot of people have made a lot of money basically being on him every single fight. And I have not been that guy. The one question of this fight that I have over top of anything else was Trinaldo's fight against Jim Miller, his last performance. He won pretty clearly. He didn't even gas out all that hard in round 3. But he just didn't look like the same guy anymore. He looked a little bit slow, lethargic, crowd was booing. He just kind of laid in guard for round 3 because he thought he was up. He ended up winning 29-28, so like it was a lot closer than I think he thought it was. I just wonder if a 39-year-old, muscular, explosive, lightweight like Francisco Trinaldo, if that was the sign of like he's reached the end of the line. I think the line is a little bit too high here. Trinaldo, I don't hate. I can't help but think back to the Benny Dariush fight, Southpaw versus Vick.
Yeah. And
you look at Francisco Trinaldo's fight against Kevin Lee. Dropped Kevin Lee in the first round. Kevin Lee's got like a 77-inch reach.
Super long.
Likes to throw his jab and utilize that reach, similar to kind of what Vick does. I don't know. I think Trinaldo is, for me, if I'm going to play anybody from this fight, he's the more likely guy I'm going to play. I just think that the line is a little bit too spread, both on DK and the betting line. I think it's just a little bit too wide, but I'm not going to be surprised to see Vick continue to improve. We've seen the improvements every single fight and get the win here, but I just think it's a little too steep from my perspective.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have to agree with you. I actually like Vick. I think Vick gets the job done here. But for minus 230 on the straight betting line,
I got to really like him.
It's just a big line. It's a big line over a guy in Trinaldo who's
He's not a scrub.
No, man. He's a proven veteran. He's had some big performances in the last number of years. And he's really just not all that bad. 230 is only a tad disrespectful to him. And then you're looking at the DK lineup, $7,200 on Trinaldo is great value. $9,000 on Vick. You got to be really sure that he's going to go out there and get the finish, or at least just completely own him. But I do feel like Vick is the younger, better athlete, coming to his own, 6-inch reach advantage. I know what you're saying. Benil Dariush is able to clip this guy.
Kevin Lee had a 7-inch reach advantage.
Yeah, but Kevin Lee's a much shorter guy, and he's not really a striker, I mean, he's got some strikes, but he pumps out the jab like it's like a range jab, and you can counter over top of that. Vick is almost the same way, but he's doing a much better job of getting out of the way when the return fire comes. That fight with Joe Duffy, man. Joe Duffy has a good first round against Vick, but Vick just keeps coming forward, man. And whether people think that's an early stoppage or not, and it kind of was an early stoppage, it's almost the end of the round. Do you think the third round is going to get any better?
No, Vick, the tides had turned hard in that fight.
He's almost a slow starter, right? Whereas that the first round might not be great for James Vick. I mean, it could be as well, but he seems to get progressively better the longer that the rounds are going. And Trinaldo is actually reverse. He starts out well. If he can take you out early, if he can take you down and control you and pound away at you, or land some good punches standing against you, then he'll take those opportunities. He'll try to capitalize. But the longer the fight goes, he's getting tired as well. You talk about the fact that he's 38 years old. He didn't look like he had a whole lot of gas in the tank against Jim Miller, but his last 4 fights have all taken place in Brazil. He has not left Brazil for a fight in 2 years. So now he's coming to Texas, James Vick's backyard, taking on the hometown hero, who everybody loves there. Crowd's going to be behind him. And I just feel like that pressure might get to him. He is getting a little bit older. He's getting a little bit slower. And there's no denying that you could say, well, he beat Jim Miller in his last fight. That's coming off the Kevin Lee fight. Wasn't a great fight, and it's Jim Miller. Jim Miller's shot to bits. Whereas James Vick is that young, talented, hungry, up-and-coming guy. Obviously not a prospect because he's had a number of fights take place in the UFC at this point, but he's getting better. He's rolling. And as I mentioned, he wants to go out there, put a statement victory on Trinaldo, and move on to bigger and better opponents. Whereas Trinaldo's almost just comfortable fighting these mid-pack guys. He doesn't turn down mid-pack guys. He wants to fight mid-pack guys. That's what he's looking for. He's not saying, he wasn't on a 7-fight winning streak saying, hey guys, I want to fight for the title. He got Kevin Lee, who ended up getting a shot at the title, but he doesn't campaign for those big money fights. Whereas James Vick's kind of in that point in his life. I feel like that range, that 6-inch reach advantage, is going to come into play. Stick on the outside, just pump the jab in this guy's face, and that will tire him out. The damage will take its toll. He'll tire out. He'll get desperate with some takedowns. And if you get real desperate against James Vick, that's when he can catch you. Do I think James Vick can submit
Vick doesn't have the best takedown defense, though.
Because he's so tall.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But Trinaldo will burn himself out.
That height is a big disadvantage when it becomes a wrestling.
Fair. I just feel like Trinaldo will burn himself out.
But he'll get himself tired for sure doing that. And we know that Vick, even though he's massive and he must cut a ton of weight to get down, gas tank has never, ever been a problem with him. So.
Yeah, and he's super active off his back. So if he does get taken down, he's just going to work. He's going to try to get up.
He's got a mean guillotine, too. So like, don't get your head stuck in that.
And it's one of those situations, too, where if this fight's in Brazil and you just get a takedown on Vick and you just hold him in guard, and he's pounding away with elbows and short shots, the crowd, they're not cheering for Vick. The takedown might do you well. Yeah. This is the kind of fight where you take Vick down and he's throwing up elbows and he's trying to pound you and he's working and you're just trying to hold him down in guard. Who's to say the judges aren't going to say, oh, he's trying to hold down our Texas boy. Let's give it to him. I don't know, man. All I'm saying is,
let's be honest, Texas does not have the best history in the fight game whatsoever.
It's a terrible commission.
It's maybe the worst in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry to all our Texas fans out there. But
no, they're not on the commission, so I'm sure they understand. It's like we're Canadian, and we can fully admit that there's some bad decisions. We get some bad decisions
up here, for sure.
It could be the same thing in Texas, whereas if
we're no Australia.
If the fight's close, Jesus, if the fight's close, then you're going to kind of favor that hometown guy. And I think with Vick, is it possible Trinaldo beats him? Dude, there is a possibility. But it's the possibility that you beat him in a close fight. And we've been seeing a lot lately, man. These close fights, it's hard to bet on. And that's why I don't like 230. But I do like James Vick.
All right, we got Thiago Alves taking on Curtis Millender. Thiago Alves, 8,600 on DK. Millender 7,600. Thiago Alves minus 165 on the betting line. Millender plus 145. How done is Thiago Alves at this point?
Well, I would
because that's the question that you have to ask yourself in this spot.
Well, I mean,
because against Patrick Cote, he looked okay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He was landing that outside leg kick just at will. Millender doesn't really stand on it nearly as hard as Cote does. Like Cote would just kind of leave that leg out there, just like kick it. I don't care. I'll take it. But you know, Thiago Alves was also able to drop Patrick Cote. Now Cote, like that was Cote's last fight. He retired. We'd seen kind of the writing on the wall that his chin wasn't the same anymore. I'm just saying, all in all, winning over Patrick Cote doesn't lead me to believe that Thiago Alves is back. But being back he may not have to be the old Thiago Alves, the former title challenger Thiago Alves.
That Thiago Alves was a specimen, but he's not the same guy.
He's not the same guy, but he doesn't need to be the same guy, I don't think, to beat Curtis Millender. What's your take here?
Well, I'm going to go Millender. I don't love the fight by all means because it's not. I'm waiting to fade Thiago Alves where he gets a remotely decent opponent and he comes in as favorite and I take the dog. I'm just waiting on it. This is a situation where he comes in minus 165. Dude, I'd have a look at whoever he's fighting.
Yep.
It has to be Curtis Millender making not a short notice, but making his UFC debut here. Lights could get to him. Who knows? Thiago Alves is definitely a savvy veteran, but I do believe that he's shot. If you look at the fight with Jordan Mein, we'll go back 4 fights. Fight with Jordan Mein, he's getting completely annihilated.
Lands the kick to the body.
It is such a savage beating that it's like, oh my God.
Round 1 was not nice to him.
And then he just lands that body kick. You know, I would never say it's just a fluke shot because this is the game of, you know, you're trying to land these shots, you practice these shots. It's a nice body kick, don't get me wrong, but he hits him, Mein folds over, big one. Then he gets this Carlos Condit fight where he gets annihilated. Terrible. Now, in his mind, he knows he's shot, Paul. He's not the same guy. First of all, USADA definitely would have changed this guy because the guy that was knocking out Josh Koscheck and Matt Hughes and Carl Parisian, the title challenger, 2009, 2008 Thiago Alves, that guy wouldn't pass up to USADA test. Let's be honest here. So now all of a sudden you move him into 2018. He's nearly 10 years past his prime, or at least the prime of his life, which is prior to UFC 100. Think about how much things have changed since then. The guy takes all types of time off. He's got battles injuries. He battles all types of issues outside of the octagon. Finally makes it back to the octagon. In the fight with Jordan Mein and Carlos Condit where he comes out 1-1 miraculously, body kick saves him from being 0-2, possibly being cut, saves him, great. Now he decides to himself, I'm not the same guy I used to be. I'm going to go down to 155. I could barely make 170, but I'm going to go down to 155.
Catch weight.
Botches the weight cut against Jim Miller. Comes out at 163. What are you doing?
And then Jim Miller's just like...
And then proceeds to lose to Jim Miller.
Well, they had a catch weight because he had already botched it. He contacted Jim Miller. And then
So
Miller
sad.
came in at like 58 or 59 or something. It's just like, oh, that's not like Jim Miller to miss it. And then like we were informed later, it's just like he was told that there was no chance for Alves to make it. So he was just like, yeah, we'll do get down to 163, man. We're cool.
Yeah, the other thing too is that I believe the commission has a rule that if it's more than 7 pounds, the fight doesn't go. So Miller was like, shit, I'm 55.
I need the money.
This motherfucker's 163. That's 8 pounds. There's no point in going up, whatever it is, to 160, 157 or 158 because now I'm just giving up that disadvantage and I'm not getting 20% of his purse because technically I'm not making weight here either. But I want the fight to continue, so I'm going to put on the weight to fight him anyways, fights him anyways, beats him. Thiago Alves looks terrible. Now he gets this Patrick Cote fight. Patrick Cote 1 foot out the door. He announces his retirement afterwards. And when we talked about this, when you're a warrior and you're set on your ability to take a punch and you're going into a fight now, it's like Luke Rockhold. You feel for him. The talent is still there. Patrick Cote was never the most talented guy, but he was rough, he was rugged, and he put the fight to you. But once your ability to take a punch is gone, you're just not the same guy anymore. Rockhold can't take a punch anymore. Where he goes from here, I don't know. Pat Cote couldn't take the punch anymore. He realized that. He fought Thiago Alves, he got dropped. When he fought Donald Cerrone, he got dropped. You even look at the start, it was the Alessio Sakara fight where he got dropped. Prior to that, the guy never gets dropped. He's got a cast iron chin. But he's smart enough to realize the times is changing. These younger, stronger, better athletes are rising up the ranks. It's time for me to get out while the getting's good. Thiago Alves, meanwhile, pulls out of a fight because, oh, a hurricane hit Florida and my head's not in it. I don't know if he's just looking for a payday because he probably would have taken that fight otherwise, but at this point, he's a non-title challenger. He's never going to be a title challenger. He's never going to be a guy in the top 10. He's just simply a guy with a name. And how big of a name does Thiago Alves realistically have?
Not really.
So I'm waiting to fade him. The problem with Curtis Millender is I just don't know that he's talented enough to be the guy that goes out and puts it on him. What I will say is I used to watch this guy way back when he was fighting in Bellator, losing to Brennan Ward. I had a scheduled fight with Michael Page. He wasn't all that good. He really wasn't. And he's not like he's super young. He's 30 years old now. But watching him in LFA, he is
made
progressing.
Improvements. He's got a really nice left head kick.
He's making improvements, and his striking is pretty much his bread and butter. If Thiago Alves does what he did against Cote, and that's lull him a little bit with the striking, and then try to get a takedown, well, then maybe he could take this guy down and sub him, because that's the way to beat Curtis Millender, is take the guy down. However, if you're going to stand with this guy, I'm not so convinced that he's just going to beat him in a striking battle. I could see this fight going exactly like the Jordan Mein fight, minus the body kick. Yeah. And that's the longer, rangier guy who's faster than you, a little more explosive, is just going to beat you to the punch and hurt you.
Fair enough.
And rock you all over the place. So I don't love it, but with the dog play at minus 145 Millender, We need some dogs,
Plus
first of all.
145.
Yeah, sorry. Plus 145. We're going to get some dog money on him. He's most definitely got a shot. And Thiago Alves is literally the definition of untrustworthy. So if you've got a hot take on him, maybe he does go get the win over this level of opposition. However, I don't trust the guy. And if I don't trust the guy, I'll take a play on the opponent, especially if he's going to be dog money. Fair. So that's what I'm going for here.
Brandon Davis takes on Steve Peterson. Moving on down the card, we got Brandon Davis, 8,700 on DK. Steve Peterson, 7,500, minus 190. Davis, plus 165. Peterson, what's your take?
Okay, first and foremost, Steven Ocho Peterson, my boy, okay? Love this guy. However, so hittable, Paul.
But he's tough and durable.
So tough and so durable, and he has a lot of fun fights, right? He'll go out there and he'll just take a complete thrashing, but his submission grappling is awesome. It's not like it's the highest level, but he's relentless. He'll go for those takedowns. Once he gets those takedowns, he'll swarm on you. He fought for the, I believe, the LFA title against Leandro Higo, and it's a fun fight, but it's him getting completely rocked left, right, and center, and him just sticking in the fight long enough to, he gets a takedown. He doesn't quite get a takedown, but he gets a back take. Oh, he's on his back. He's looking for a rear naked choke. It's an exciting fight. Then we see him on Dana White's Contender Series, and you know what?
He's against Benito Lopez.
Benito Lopez is proven to really not be all that good, but all the same, well, I don't know. I guess he's 1-1, and he had a tough fight his last time out, but I'm just not really sold on him. But Peterson,
he's flashy, and he lands a lot of like crazy. What was his loss? Maybe I'm forgetting something because he beat Albert Morales.
Yeah, but I didn't think he won that fight.
I thought he won that fight.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know. Albert Morales is like divisional. He's like a gatekeeper for lower level guys, you know? If you beat Albert Morales, great.
Yeah, if you're young, you beat Albert Morales, even though if it's a
I just didn't think he won the
dog fight.
Yeah, fair.
I thought he won.
Okay, fair enough.
He landed the cleaner, more devastating strikes, that's for sure.
Peterson has a fun fight with him. It's a split decision. It's a close fight. He's only 27. Conceivably, he's going to be getting better. And Brandon Davis against Bochniak just looked out of it of sorts. But
I don't think he was expecting Bochniak to come out and just take him down.
That's what I mean, man. Styles make fights.
That wasn't even that long ago. This guy's right back on the horse, getting back in the octagon. I think it's because he's from around here as well.
He's from Mississippi, so.
I think he was born in Texas. He trains in Mississippi now.
Well, he played football in Mississippi, trains in Mississippi. Maybe he's originally from Texas. Maybe. But all the same is that Brandon Davis, we thought going into the fight with Bochniak that this guy's a guy that likes to use striking from a range. He's got good work ethic. He'll put it on you. He's not the most flashiest guy, but what he does well. And coming out of Alan Belcher's camp, you know, working out with guys like Jason Knight and Chase Sherman, they all kind of have a lot of similarities. They like to talk trash. They like to be brash. They're not exactly the most talented guys, but they bring exciting fights and they bring pace. Most of all, bring pace.
That's what Brandon Davis brings, and that's why it makes it an interesting DraftKings play here.
Yeah.
In this fight, because we know that this is gonna be a war.
Yeah,
these guys are not gonna do a lot of cage work and you know do a lot of.
No, I don't know because
I think it's gonna be pretty high volume.
Peterson's best path to victory is getting the takedowns going, and especially
if he gets the takedowns going, then that's good though. That scores.
Yeah, but if I'm Peterson and I'm watching tape on Brandon Davis,
then Brandon Davis is going to try to get up and get up and get up.
Yeah, if I'm watching tape on his last fight against Kyle Bochniak, okay, the blueprint's right here, boys. Just stay elusive enough for this guy that he's going to charge forward. When he charges forward, cut off the ring, get him up against the cage, get him to the ground. If he gets up, get him back down. It doesn't matter. You can control him in the grappling exchanges. And for that reason, Peterson's not a bad bet at all. If you're looking for a dog on the card, when you look at the fact that Steve Peterson's plus 165, that's pretty good. Only $7,500 on DraftKings, that's pretty good.
I like the fact that he's super tough, durable, and I don't think it's actually, I'm actually surprised by how wide the margin is, both on the betting line and this. Like when I originally saw it, and even after I watched tape, I was just like,
well, here's my issue.
This looks close to a coin flip to me.
Yeah, here's my issue. When the fight got announced, and like I said, Peterson's my guy, but when the fight got announced, I prefer Davis in this matchup. Only because Peterson's so tough, and he is a crowd pleaser, that he'll get himself into a war against Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis is a better striker. He is going to hit him. Peterson's so tough, he takes the shots, he keeps moving forward, but what is the judge's favor? The tough guy moving forward, getting shit kicked, or the guy that's backpedaling, moving around, talking shit? This has got a good fight written all over it. I didn't mind Davis. When I look at the price when it got released, I don't like the price. No. And for that reason, here's my dilemma. If I'm just basing the fight on price, I'm going to take Peterson. But if I'm basing it on who I think's going to win the fight, I'm thinking Davis.
That sounds like a pass.
Those are always tricky fights, man. That's more of a pass. But once again, if you're sitting at home and you're looking at this card and you want some dogs, Derek Lewis, not the worst dog, but better than him. Curtis Millender and Steve Peterson are definitely dogs with a shot.
All right, let's move on down the card. We got our boy, Super Sage Northcutt.
Again, terrible price.
9,200, taking on Thibaut Gouti, who can be out for 7,000, minus 305, Sage Northcutt, plus 253, Gouti. I have a general rule now with Sage Northcutt, and it's just like if he's taking on a guy with like legit grappling, you can fade. You can still fade Sage, and I think the improvements as a young super athlete like him, kind of like what we were talking about with Jake Matthews. The guy that you saw like 3-4 months before is not going to be the same guy that shows up on fight night. But the price is super high here. And on DraftKings, you're basically paying for the fact that Thibaut Gouti is not durable at all. This guy gets hit and he drops. Like,
very fair assessment. I hear you.
Like I was looking, I was trying to like watch it. I already had a little bit of a bias in my head, and then just watching tape, I was just like, Chad Laprise lands, you know, a nice clean shot. Boom, he's done. Timo Packalin, he comes in, lands an uppercut right up the pipe. The guy's wobbled, done.
Oh yeah.
He ended up taking on Andrew Holbrook, got a win. I think he got the win, got the first round finish. Holbrook, we'd already talked about, is like super, super chinny.
More chinny than Timo
The UFC looks at this, we got our pretty boy with the bleach blonde hair, the golden boy of the promotion that we've been trying to build up, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Who's the worst guy we got coming off of a win?
He's 1-3 in the UFC.
Thibaut Gouti, put him in there. He's a striker. We don't have to worry about Barberina. Me and you were on Barberina against Sage because it's the grappling that hurts Sage. If it's just a kickboxing match, Sage can hang with a bunch of other people.
I agree, and what I got to add there, it's not necessarily just the grappling, it's the grit. If you can take his punch and you can give one back, he'll fold up. He'll be like, oh, well, never had that happen.
Well, that's what happened in the Barberina fight. Like, it wasn't a takedown.
He's a gritty bastard.
He got hit by that one, it was like the little cross right or something.
Yeah, and next thing you know, he's throwing
and then all of a sudden you saw the look on his face, just like, oh shit, things just got real.
And
when things got real, he wasn't able to take it.
No,
Thibaut has not showed me a shred of durability to be able to take these strikes. I think it's one-way action. Do I want him on DraftKings at 9,200? I want a little bit of him, I think. I don't think you should have all of them because I think he's just going to be a striking match, and he doesn't necessarily get that first-round finish. Chasing that first-round finish in DraftKings isn't the safest way to accrue points. Like, I don't think he has to be on all of your lineups. I don't want any part of Thibaut Gouti, though. I see people taking their shot, fade Sage. Oh, you know, he's a quitter, yada, yada, yada. He's a quitter when shit gets real. I don't think Thibaut Gauti's got it for him, though.
Yeah, no, I hear you, dude. And you look at that Brian Barberina fight, it's like he wants out 100%. The going got tough, and he just wasn't really all that tough. And he's in what? He's in half guard. It's a shoulder choke from half guard, right? And he just wants out. But since then, training
with Alpha... He had strep throat, man. He had strep throat.
He literally gave him strep throat with his shoulder. What's up now, buddy? But since then, being at Team Alpha Male, I bet you he spends so much time in half guard getting pounded on because he's working at the perfect gym to kind of work on a lot of those flaws.
Bunch of nice, preppy guys that are really good at wrestling.
Yeah, they're going to take
and
you
down. And he's a nice, preppy guy who's really good at
there's no denying that he's super talented in the fact that he's very explosive, he's very quick. I don't think I've ever really seen him gas as much as I've just seen him quit on himself. But Sage Northcutt is a fantastic athlete. He blows up into the UFC. He's such a young kid. He's actually smart when you consider that he was studying engineering prior to quitting to become a full-time fighter and really devote himself to fighting full-time. The guy's got a good future, but people love to hate him because, quite frankly, he's way better looking than I am, and he's in way better shape than I am. And if he was, I don't know, if he was into women, he'd be getting a lot more ass than I am. I hate this guy, right? It's easy to hate him.
And the fan base doesn't like when the promotion shoves someone down your throat. And that's what has happened with Sage, right? It's like Sage is everywhere. He's getting paid all this money. You see pictures of him with like these cool cars, and they've really been pumping him up. And like he's the stereotypical like perfect like baby face to kind of promote in a fight promotion. I get it. But also, and I understand why fans hate him. But I think the athleticism is there. His grit, I think that's always going to be a question. When things get really bad, I think it's always going to be a question with him. But his athleticism and his ability, if it's a striking match against someone with no durability, like Sage wins this fight.
Okay, agree. And I like Sage, and I'm picking Sage. The only one thing is, when you look at the price tag, don't like the price tag. It's minus 305.
No.
Here's the only situation that could blow up in Sage's face. This is going to be a striking match. Thibaut Gouti, maybe his chin's not all that good. Maybe his durability is in a question. His ground game, really not all that good. So he shouldn't be able to just go take down Sage Northcutt and pound him on the ground. But the guy hits hard, man. He does have awesome punch. You look at his fight on The Ultimate Fighter against David Tamor, and it's a good fight. He takes punches in that fight. He returns punches in that fight. He moves forward. In his first couple fights in the UFC, I mean, come on, he gets dealt a pretty bad hand. The Pacquiao fight, that was when I realized he was chinny. He eats a punch from a guy with no punching power, who is a grappler. As soon as he gets tagged, he goes to the ground, he gets submitted. Chad Laprise is a fantastic striker. He's
not really a power guy.
He's more of a volume guy. He's a precision guy, right? He hits you right on the button, and he's going to make you pay. And then the Olivier Aubin-Mercier fight, Thibaut Gouti don't start out too bad, but eventually he hits the ground, and when you got Aubin-Mercier on top of you, it's not going to be a good time. But they kept him around for a reason. He's 0-3 in the UFC. He got decimated in the first round in all 3 of his fights, and they kept him around. They put him against Hallbrook. You remember, I picked him over Hallbrook because I said he's the less chinny of the two, and he's going to hit this guy, and he's going to make him pay.
I had Gouti in that fight as well.
This fight, in my mind, is likely going to go closer to Northcutt versus Francisco Trevino. I'm just going to blitz this guy. I'll hit him with some punches. I can toss him to the ground. I'll pound him out. I'll call it a day. It'll be a nice fight. I'll do a cool little flip. However, if Thibaut Gouti shows off a little bit of a better chin, if Thibaut Gouti can kind of get through the opening couple minutes of this fight and make him pay, Thibaut Gouti's got a shot. But my last point on it is Northcutt, as we talk about him learning and progressing, his ability, like, it's not like he comes from, well, he's wrestled a little bit in high school, but it's not like his base is wrestling. It's obviously point fighting karate. Man, this guy's so explosive. He just shoots right through you. And his ground game's something that you could definitely see that he has been working on because he knows it's so bad. And he's a lot better on the ground when he's on top than when he's on the bottom. So I don't doubt that he takes Gouti down as well, pounds him on the ground. We saw in the Michel Quinones fight, striker versus striker. I'll just take you down. This is striker versus striker. And in fact, it's not even just striker versus striker. It's striker versus boxer because Gouti's only looking to throw them hands. So I like Northcutt. But whenever you get a quitter for 3-1,
exactly,
it's going to be risky. And this is going to have
some risk. That's what I'm saying. I didn't say to bet the money line there.
I'm going to parlay.
What can you do? You're more of a degenerate than me. But I was saying on DraftKings, 9,200. He's expensive, but that mentality, sometimes you got to zig when other people are zagging, right?
Yeah.
And that mentality of Sage is a quitter, Sage is a quitter. I see it all over our little community online right now. And though I agree, I don't think this is the spot to go after it. So I'd be interested to see like ownership on Sage moving on. My favorite play on the card by far in the next fight, we got Jared Gordon, $9,300, taking on Carlos Diego Ferreira, going to be out for $6,900, minus 255. Jared Gordon plus 215. Carlos Diego Ferreira. Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's been on a little hiatus for the last 2 years. USADA suspension. That was coming off of performance of his life against Aubin-Mercier. Looked great. Against a really good guy at 155 pounds. Gets busted, 2 years, he's on the shelf. Jared Gordon, in the meantime, kind of enters the UFC during that time. And this guy's pressure game. You may be able to hit him. He showed that he's had a chin. But this guy does not stop moving forward. He is just constantly up in your grill. You try to sneak away, he just cuts you off, cuts you off, cuts you off. It's exhausting. Hakron Diaz looked massive at 155 pounds and looked massive compared to Jared Gordon in Jared Gordon's last fight. And Hakron Diaz hit him with some good shots early on.
Started off well.
Yeah, started off well.
Pressure like this
when
guy.
That pressure just adds on and on. It's just even watching people try to take on that pressure from Jared Gordon. It's just like, man, this guy just doesn't give you an inch. He's just up in your grill. He has so much faith in his chin. This may not end up well 5, 6 years from now, or even 2 years from now, eventually that chin's going to get checked. But in the meantime, I just think this is going to be pressure versus pressure, because like Carlos Diego Ferreira, it's like he went up against Dustin Poirier. He got knocked out in that fight, but like he was pressuring Dustin Poirier. Poirier's not usually the guy who pressures. These two guys are basically just like two trains coming on. There's going to be a collision, and if we're going to have a pressure fight, pressure versus pressure, give me who I touted as having a black belt in pressure fighting, Jared Gordon, all day. He's the most expensive guy on the card, $9,300, but honestly, I just have faith in that chin. I have faith that he's gonna score. Like every fight, he's scoring like 120, 130 points.
He just keeps
like,
going.
He just he's the Energizer Bunny. He never stops moving. And I don't think Carlos Diego Ferreira. He has a few like crazy little spinning techniques. Like he landed like a spinning back fist on Olivier Aubert-Mercier. That stuff's a little bit dangerous. You know, like that can happen. But I think Gordon eats that all day, and you pull that type of thing, and you hit him, he's going to be right up in your grill, so you can't do that anymore the next time. And constant pressure. I see like a second or third round finish for Jared Gordon.
Yeah, dude. If you look back at the Hakran Diaz fight too, any ref in their right mind who wasn't Brazilian when the fight was in Brazil would have stopped that fight. In fact, Jared Gordon stops at one point because he thinks the fight stopped. He's like, "You stopping this? No, back to work." It's like, oh my god, dude. Time for Cody's greasy theory alert, and this goes out to all you young MMA fans at home. The key to having an unlimited gas tank, it's like the wealth of gas, to die of a heroin overdose. Bear with me on this, right?
I hate where this is going.
Matt Brown, Court McGee, and to a lesser extent Ian McCall, have all died of smack overdoses. None of those guys, Ian McCall to a lesser extent, if you're John Lineker Guillotine, maybe you can suck the life out of him. But Matt Brown and Court McGee especially, you come back from the dead and you're like, well, I've experienced basically all life's got to throw at me. Who knows, dude? These guys get their lives back together, they get work ethic going, and they do not stop. It seems like you can thrash your body.
They're hard as hell after that.
Oh my god. They're just battle tested. The guys go on forever. They're Energizer buddies. Jared Gordon's the exact same. This guy had a pro MMA fight some 6 months after he died of a heroin overdose. They wake him up. It's like, oh man, heart stops. I think they had to revive him twice. He comes to MMA, and the guy's unstoppable. He lives his life on the straight and narrow. He's a dangerous prospect because he can take one hell of a punch. He's pressure for days like you talked about. And the fact is that he's a John Danaher brown belt. And whereas a lot of the times you're talking about the highest level of MMA, you want these guys to have black belts. A brown belt under Danaher, training with the Death Squad in New York, is a black belt. And Carlos Diego Ferreira, I believe, is a third-degree black belt, and he's got great grappling. If you look at his fight with Olivier Aubert-Mercier, he owns him on the ground. He's great on the ground, but it's the pressure. It's the pressure game with Jared Gordon. Even if you get this guy in the ground, it's going to be really hard to submit him. You're pretty much going to have to kill him, and he's already experienced that already. He's just going to keep going. You might get him down the first round. You might have a good first round. But he's just going to keep putting it to you. And that's where you're going to beat Ferreira. Ferreira's had these big lulls of inactivity where he's just taken a lot of time off. He was an undefeated prospect. I think his first loss was against Dustin Poirier. And that's two guys clash. Because that fight was a hectic pace. Two guys clash. And eventually, he couldn't handle Poirier's pressure anymore. Jared Gordon will do the same thing. Not quite the same power puncher as Dustin Poirier. But the volume will just add up eventually. He will break his will. Hakran Diaz is no slouch. He hasn't been on the greatest run. He's never really had the best run in the UFC, but he's a tough guy. You can't take anything away from Hakran Diaz. This guy broke his will and stole his soul in Brazil in front of his own hometown, and now he's going to come in here and he's going to do this against Ferreira. Ferreira lives in Texas, but this is not the type of fight where I think home cooking is going to become a factor. He either stops him in the second or third round, like you said, or he just thrashes him en route to this could be one of those fights that's like a 29-27 or a 30-26, you know? He might thrash him all 3 rounds, or he might lose the first round and pick up a 10-8 along the road. Like, you don't know, but I'm sold on this kid, man. I mean, he looks better every time we see him. And when you're young and you can take a hell of a punch, even if you get wobbled, you can recover because you're in great shape and you can keep going. Hard to bet against these guys, man. When I was a kid, when I first started watching
Volkanovski in like last week's card.
That was a mega lock. As far as locks go, I mean, you just saw it was style clash.
I wish I had just laid like.
He's only 210.
I think I looked around. I saw some smart people that like Kennedy, and like I didn't see it myself because we were talking about just like such a strong It's just like a strong, shorter, tough
You'll
grappler.
have to take him down to beat him, and you're not going to take him down.
No, exactly. We talked about that was a missed opportunity. I should have been way all over that thing.
You know the scary thing there, too, is that was Volkanovski with one knee, right? Imagine what he looks like if he's 100% healthy. But the thing with guys that are like that are resilient and ferocious and just can push themselves through tough situations, is that even if they come into the fight hurt, you're going to get a good version of them. If Sage Northcutt comes in with one knee, you talk about him being a quitter, he's going to have a problem with a guy like Tybura Gouti. If his athletic movement isn't quite there because he's got an injury hindering him, hell, he's the kind of guy that he's got an injury, he's just going to pull out of the fight. But Jared Gordon's not like that. Jared Gordon is as blue collar gets. He comes into that octagon with a lunchbox because he will eat with one hand and pound you unconscious with the other. The guy is the kind of guy that it's easy to back up. When I first started watching fights, I know it's a theory that obviously doesn't exist. I didn't know anything about fighting at the time, but my theory was when I looked at a lot of these fights is the guy with the better gas tank and a good chin is going to win the fight. If you can take the punches and you have better cardio than your opponent, you will win the fight. Street fights is the same thing. One guy bombs on you for 45 seconds and he's gassed and you just took those punches and you're still standing and no one's broken up the fight, you are going to win because you are fighting a punching bag. And Ferreira, I'm not saying he's got bad cardio, but he swings really wild and that just takes a lot out of you, and Jared Gordon just don't go nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. Yep. The only thing is, and I know I sound like a broken record here, I don't love the price. $9,300 on DK is very expensive. He scores traditionally very well. His
style is DK gold, though.
But this is a tricky opponent he's against. So I like Jared Gordon. I am playing Jared Gordon. But once again, like you said, you love this play and you're going on this play, and I don't blame you. I like Jared Gordon. However, when I'm looking at plays, there's plays that I really like, but I like Vick. I don't like the price. I liked Brandon Davis. Definitely don't like the price. I like Sage Northcutt. Hate the price. This just kind of falls in line. $255, I like. $9,300 on DK, not so much, but I understand why he's so expensive.
He'll score over 100 points.
Yeah, he's like Colby Covington in the sense that you're like, oh, dude, he's just going to get takedowns and ground and pound. Where are all these points going to come from? The points will come because he'll get multiple takedowns and a lot of ground.
And as that fight wears on, that first round, he may only score 20, 25 points, 20 or 30 points in that first round. We get into the second round, and they just compile because his opponent starts getting more tired, and his game is based on you getting tired. And when you get tired, things get ugly, and things get ugly real quick.
First round, 25 points. Second round, 45 points. Third round, 65 points. Put them all together, it's a hell of a night for Jared.
Jeff Neal taking on Brian Camozzi. Jeff Neal, 8,900 on DraftKings. Brian Camozzi to be had for 7,300, minus 210. Jeff Neal plus 175. Brian Camozzi. The Camozzi brothers in general, not a very popular band of brothers in the Twitter community that we are a part of here. I'm just not seeing. I know Jeff Neal, really, he's got a powerful left. We saw it on Dana White's Contenders series. I went back to a fight a couple years ago against a guy with the last name Holland.
Kevin Holland, yeah.
Kevin Holland. And that was a guy from this Texas scene that kind of popped up a couple times when I was doing tape study. And Neal got real tired, man. Round three Neal's not round one Neal. Brian Camozzi, I don't think he's drawn dead. I think he's live in this spot. It may be real ugly in round 1 or 2, but if you're looking for like a GPP punt play, 7.5 minutes into this fight, I think the knees and the pace of the fight will lean towards Brian Camozzi, who trains at Elevation in Denver. That's never been the issue with him. It's been more trying to, his durability has been called into question. That loss to Randy Brown, that was just a really well-placed knee when they were up against the cage. He wasn't doing too bad in round 1. I think he's getting a little bit of a bad rap, and I don't know if it's 100% justified. So I'm not going to have any Neal whatsoever. He needs the first round knockout, and I can't guarantee that he does get that. I wouldn't mind a sprinkle of Camozzi, just in case we do get through that first 7.5 minutes. And Camozzi, I think, could start putting it on him, and I think it could be close. What's your take?
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. Jeff Neal, I think I agree. I thought that he kind of had a little bit of cardio issues, and then his last fight was on Dana White Contender Series against Chase Walton, and he's at 185 pounds. And I thought, geez, maybe this is the secret. I don't know if he would have gotten tired because he blasted Walden so quickly. And shout out to Daniel Levy, too, because, I mean, he's a big Chase Walden guy. And as a result, I've looked at Walden, and the guy's pretty good. I mean, he seems to check out. He's a tough guy. But Neal's just got power, man, like big power. His fight prior to that, Bilal Williams, pretty tough guy, too. And he just buzzsaws right through him. He's got the power. With Camozzi's the less talented of the two brothers, with the more talented of the two brothers not being all that talented. I mean, first of all, me and Chris Camozzi, we used to be on good terms. Then he beat Joe Riggs. Not acceptable. Guy is fucking dead to me, okay?
He killed Joe Riggs.
He broke his arm. What the hell, dude? The guy's got family.
He murdered Joe Riggs.
Yeah, that's not cool, dude. Not cool.
Dan Kelly whipped his ass, though.
Well,
that made you feel a little bit better, I would imagine.
That's karma. That's karma right there. Anyways, yeah, no. Beat Joe Riggs. Guy's dead to me. Then now all of a sudden, it's like he realizes, geez, MMA is not really for me. I don't do anything particularly well. I do multiple things okay. I'm an okay striker. I'm an okay grappler.
Are you talking about Chris or Brian?
I'm talking about Chris. He's actually left MMA, and now he fights for Glory Kickboxing, which he shockingly won his debut against really a non-striker as well. But his head's kind of out of the game. Brian Camozzi is the less talented of the two. He's got a 7-4 pro record, not all that appealing. Prior to getting to the UFC, it wasn't as if he had beaten any notable names. He had fought a couple okay guys. My boy Josh Cavan, I believe he got a win over him. He's just okay. He comes to the UFC, Randy Brown knocks him out. He fights Chad Laprise, who's a very tough guy. He also gets knocked out. That was Laprise, I believe, 170-pound debut, comes up, and you were talking about the fact that Chad Laprise, maybe not a power puncher, you know, maybe he's just got to land that shot. Well, he does. He lands that shot, he hurts Camozzi, and he knocks Camozzi out. I feel like this fight with Neal, if you're looking at DraftKings perspective, 8,900 is expensive, but we've seen with Camozzi, he's 0-2 in the UFC. He's been knocked out both times. He's taken on a guy who's a big power puncher, who generally finishes guys in the first round. There's no need for Camozzi in the UFC at this point. As I mentioned, he's 0-2. He's not spectacular. He's not really getting any better. And Neal's that acquisition from Dana White's Contender Series where he looked really good. He seems pretty flashy. Let's sign this guy to a UFC contract. Let's get this guy. You want this guy to go to the UFC. You want him to get a big win. You want to try to build him. These guys coming off the show, not all that good. But you got to at least do them
what's their record at, Code?
They're not very good.
What's the record of these Dana White Contender Series guys in their first fights off of the show?
Terrible.
It's awful.
Terrible. But all I'm saying is you give them the right opponents and they're going to be able to pick up wins.
And this is an opponent that he could shine against.
Yeah.
I just worry that if he slowed down so much in that fight against Holland.
Yeah, fair.
Like he did not look. He looked great for round one. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's pretty good. And then it's just like, oh, when someone doesn't get knocked out, doesn't get buzzsawed in the first round, this guy sinks.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Can Camozzi take that? Maybe not.
See, that's my question, right? The guy's got 2 pro losses, and both of his pro losses have come in the 3rd round. One by knockout, one by submission. There's no doubt he fades. There's no doubt he probably would have been better at 185 pounds where he would have not had this big drastic weight cut. I hear you on all those points. But at 27, he's still young enough that he can right those mistakes. And I'm sure he realizes, man, I'm getting really tired. I'm going out there trying to knock these guys out really quick, and it's tiring me out. Maybe he's going to change his approach ever so slightly. But to smash some egg on my own face, because I ate crow this weekend and it tasted terrible. Cyril Asker, what was I thinking? What I was thinking was, if this guy can
I wasn't even going to bring it up.
Well, I got to bring it up.
I wasn't even going to bring it up.
I got to bring it up. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to hide from the fact that
I already attacked you on Twitter, and that was fun enough for me. I wasn't even going to bring it up.
But everyone's got to learn lessons. Here's the lesson I've learned.
Stop feeding my boy Ty.
No, Ty.
The guy drinks beers out of a shoe.
Well, the shoe is, yeah. Skull in a shoe, he's pretty badass.
Have you ever seen that before? Apparently that's a thing. Like, they call it a shoey.
It's a shoey.
Have you ever done a shoey?
No.
Does anybody in Canada? Pat, have you ever done a shoey?
No.
That's taking off of a shoe and drinking a beer out of it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Listen, we don't do that. But Tai Tuivasa, who probably drinks the blood out of his enemies' skulls, this guy probably don't mind doing a shoey. But what I'm saying is, what I learned from that is, I'm gonna fade Tai Tuivasa. It's inevitable. However, you gotta pick and choose.
Yeah,
you need a guy
who can take him down and secure him down and tire him out.
Who's at least somewhat durable, man.
Yeah,
at least. Yeah. So the thing with Neal is, I hear you, Paul. Hey, this guy gets tired. Hey, let's fade this guy. But what I'm thinking is Camozzi's not that durable guy. So I'm gonna go with Neal. I could be wrong. It's probably a pass fight. It's not very appealing either side, and you're not getting extremely good value on Neal. You know, the minus in the 200s for his straight money line, I don't like that. $8,900 for DK, you really got to get that first round KO, which is a possibility, but I got questions about Camozzi's durability. And yeah, he's going to have better cardio, and yes, if it hits the third round, then it's going to be Camozzi. But the last point I want to make is if Neal wins round 1 in huge fashion, and Neal wins round 2, and then Neal flat gasses out, is Camozzi good enough to finish him? His last 2 opponents, they took him to deep waters, they finished him. Is Camozzi going to finish him in the third round, or is Camozzi just going to win the round and lose at 29-28?
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm not sold on him. Maybe he's going to prove me something
Neal's
here.
the hometown boy as well.
So we'll see what happens here, but it almost seems like when the UFC goes to Brazil, not all the time, but sometimes they set it up, the Brazilian should get the win. When I'm looking at this card, and I'm looking at Lewis could get the win, and Vick, the Texas boy, could get the win, and Sage Northcutt is set up to get the win. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of these guys definitely have a shot.
Coming up next, we've got Sanchez versus Sanchez, and things are gonna get dirty. Joby Sanchez, 8,200 on DK. Roberto Sanchez, 8,000. Minus 135, Joby. Plus 115, Roberto. Interesting fight. Joby Sanchez has already been to the UFC. Didn't have a great run, but we actually kind of liked him. We thought that we saw like a well-rounded skill set, training out of Greg Jackson's, and a guy that we saw the ability to improve.
What was that fight with
He
Wilson
lost to
Hayes?
Wilson Hayes.
Good fight, though, man. Good fight.
Tough way to come into the organization.
He put it on him early,
and
too.
Gian Herrera put it to him, too. He went away. He came back, and he you know, in his fight against some guy from Team Alpha Male, like a top-level wrestler from Team Alpha Male on Dana White Contenders Series. You saw, like, the well-roundedness that we had seen when he was a younger prospect, kind of all coming together. Sure, he got taken down. He got slammed in that first round against the guy on the Dana White Contenders Series there. But he was able to fight out of it. He was able to maneuver. He was able to reverse position. He was able to get back up on top. And he ended up, you know, wearing this guy down and getting to round 2. And then in round 2, he got the finish.
Yeah, fair.
I think there's a certain maturity that we've seen from him. Roberto Sanchez, he looks very one-dimensional to me. I don't see much from him in terms of the striking game. It looks like he has an aggressive, you know, takedown. Like if you throw a kick at him, he's going to grab that kick. He's going to try to take you down, and he has a good decent submission game. I don't see much else than that though. And if Joby's able to sprawl and brawl, keep it on the feet, I think he's got a massive advantage on the feet in this spot. They're both in that mid-range, so 8,200, 8,000. Very likely that if it's a relatively high-scoring fight, and it could be a high-scoring fight that one of these guys ends up on winning lineups, or they're good for cash games, because I think this probably goes to decision between the two of them.
Hard to say.
So I'm leaning Joby. I just think he's a little bit more polished, a little bit more well-rounded. But I'm interested to hear your take.
Yeah, to be honest, Roberto Sanchez is my guy because I watched a lot of his legacy fights, eventually LFA fights. The guy is tenacious. The fight hits the ground, he is all over you with submissions. And he almost seemed like just a winner. Right? He gets the victory. His fight with, I believe, Jerome Rivera, which I believe was for the LFA title. This guy's 7-0. He's undefeated. It's 2 undefeated guys. And Sanchez goes out. Roberto does what he's got to do. He gets these takedowns. He gets arm locks. He gets chokes. Whatever he needs, he always picks it up. When he's coming to the UFC, and I think he's got a fairly favorable matchup against Joseph Morales, he'll get this fight to the ground, and he's going to submit this guy. The fight hits the ground. Yeah, dude, he gets caught. Now I'm itching my head like, why did I think he was so good on the ground? Like, maybe he's a little rudimentary. His footwork's very flat, and his takedowns are not set up particularly well. He's almost just like a pure grappler.
He's waiting for you to, yeah, that's what I said. Like,
against
he waits for you to throw a leg kick, and then he attacks full force on that takedown.
Yeah.
He's not setting them up. He's waiting for you to do something before he attacks.
Yeah. Now, straight up, him versus Joby Sanchez, if Roberto Sanchez ends up on the ground on top, Joby's in a lot of trouble. The thing is, I don't really see him getting Joby down. I mean, you could take Joby down, but he's a good wrestler. He comes from a wrestling base. And if this is going to stay standing, he's a much better striker. He's quicker. He's a lot sharper. He's going to just move around. You got to realize Joby Sanchez at 125 pounds is a much different man than we had seen him in the past, right? He's a good fighter. I didn't think that he looked all that good against that JP Buys, mostly because he was like an unheralded South African prospect from UFC Africa. You know, just to fade those guys every single time. But the guy was young, and he too came from a wrestling background. So he's able to initially get Sanchez down.
He was like a world champion in wrestling.
He's a good wrestler, right? So he gets Sanchez down. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's expected, but come on, you're a better fighter.
Joby fought out of all of that.
Exactly, because Joby is a tough American wrestler as well. And so him against Roberto Sanchez, right? Roberto Sanchez has got the tricks to win this fight by submission on the ground. But if he can't get the fight on the ground, then he's going to have to stand with him. I don't know that he's got the ability to stand with Joby for a prolonged period of time. Like you said, this fight should go the distance. However, if the fight hits the ground and Roberto's on top, Roberto might be able to finish him with a submission. If the fight stays standing the entire time and it's Joby just pounding on him, then Joby might be able to get the knockout. So this is one of those fights, because they're flyweights, you automatically assume it's going to hit the over 2.5. You automatically assume it could go the distance. I don't know, man. This could be a fight, like even I had to... Not a very good play, obviously, but the Ben Nguyen fight against Formiga this weekend, I just had the fight to go the distance.
Ben lost. He did not win.
No, man. I was like, God damn it, spinning back fist to
Formiga,
submission.
I like seeing that. But I like seeing that Formiga's starting to do like spinning stuff.
Yeah, hey,
because
cool.
like we see Ortega do it, and it's just like when you're that good on the ground, you can do crazy stuff on the feet because it's just like nobody wants to go down there with me, so throw spinning stuff. Overextend on your punches as long as you don't get knocked out in the process. You can do all of that stuff because what are they going to do? Take you down? Yeah, good luck with that. You don't want to be in my guard. You don't want to be anywhere on the ground with me because I'm going to sweep you. I'm going to find your back.
Yeah. But what that fight shows me is that it's dangerous to pick a fight that if it stays standing, then both guys can actually apparently finish the other guy. The fight hits the ground, well, one of these guys is much better than the other guy. And that's what I'm getting here. Roberto Sanchez is going to have the grappling advantage. Joby Sanchez is going to have the striking advantage. And both guys are going to be able to take, if they can imply their game, if they can work what they do best, then they'll get the finish. And for that reason, I don't necessarily love if this fight goes the distance. So when you look at the straight price tag, and it's $8,000 for Roberto, if you think he's going to end up on top, and you think he might be able to get the finish, then you're going to want to play this guy. Flip side to that, if you like Joby Sanchez and you think he's going to stuff the takedowns, he's going to whip his ass. And they're both fairly priced, $8,000 and $8,200. I honestly think that if you pick the winner of this fight, he's going to score a decent amount, despite the fact that they're flyweights. You know, despite the fact
fights are pretty high-paced.
High pace.
Yeah.
And this is a fight that could have multiple takedown attempts, multiple takedowns secured, a lot of ground transitions, a lot of strikes thrown. It has the elements for a high-scoring fight.
That Joby fight on Dana White Contenders Series, I don't think they do pricing for it, but like based on how that played out, you got the second round finish. Like that whole fight was just points. Like he got taken down, he got slammed, he got taken down twice. So his opponent, who lost in round 2, already has 10 points there, like as a basement.
Yeah.
And then there was tons of lots of transitions and all of that once they got down to the mat. So, yeah, I think this could be a high scoring fight, and you probably want maybe a little bit of both sides. I'm leaning Joby.
I'll take Joby too. I'll take Joby, and I think he's going to score good.
Yeah. Let's move on. We got Lucy Pudilova taking on Sarah Moras. Lucy Pudilova, 8,500 on DraftKings, with Moras to be had for 7,700, minus 170 on the betting line for Puds, with 150 the comeback on Moras. What's your take?
Hard to gauge here, right? Because Sarah Moras is traditionally, when she's on The Ultimate Fighter, she didn't look all that bad. Cheesecake assassin. I mean, how unassuming, but she's tough, man. She's got a good grappling game. I mean, you seen the size of her legs? Dude, this girl is built for power. And she can get you to the ground. Again,
she pulls guard more than any person
because she just wants to fight on the ground. She don't want to stand. She don't want to strike.
Every fight she pulls guard.
But she's training at Toshido MMA.
She only fights grapplers, too. Go through her record. Look at all of the fighters that she's ever fought. She's never really taken on anybody, like, at least in their most recent, like, 5, 6, 7 fights. That, like, they just want to, like, as soon as you try to pull guard on me, I'm going to just pull back and get back to the feet.
Yeah, but
I think that's what Pudilova is going to try to do.
You're taking on a bunch of grapplers, and your mindset is, I'm going to grapple with them.
Yeah,
like, that's confidence in your own grappling.
On the feet.
Yeah, but I mean, she trains at a gym where with David Lee and the guys at Toshido, and I get she's not sparring the guys, but just as Shane Campbell in the gym, and Rory McDonald's full time there because he's not a TriStar anymore, and Matt Dwyer's there. Like, these guys are, for the most part, pretty good strikers. She trains with a gym that produces strikers. I don't think she's a fish out of water striking. I just think that's not her strong suit. She's built very, very strong. She's short, so she just wants to power the fight to the ground, get the submission. Her takedowns, other than just trying to bully the fight to the ground, not fantastic. So how does she get around from that? Just pull guard, get the fight to the ground. Pudilova is a much better striker. Pudilova is a lot more mobile, and Pudilova is actually
a born fighter.
So boring, but she's actually
a born fighter, not boring.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, like, this girl she always looks like miserable in the cage. She just wants to kill people. She is not.
I didn't think she was all that good, and she's really not bad.
She's tough, man.
She just brings the fight to you.
She's got that Joanna kind of mentality, it seems, a little bit.
She's a tough girl, and she's able to push the pace for the most part. I mean, her debut against, what's her name? Got killed by Side.
Lena Landsberg.
Yeah, Lena Landsberg. So Lena Landsberg is a Muay Thai, comes from a Muay Thai background, right? Very tough stand-up specialist. And Pudilova it's a fight where she's essentially on short notice. I don't know if her gas tank's really all there, but she's able to just kind of push a pace with her. It's a pretty close fight. You could definitely favor her winning. She completely swells up her opponent's eye. It's not all that bad. Her sophomore outing, geez, this girl's growing. She's getting better. But the only reason I'm a little on the fence is, one, being Canadian, I naturally kind of fade. If I'm not fully sure, I kind of just back the Canadian.
We faded Jeremy Kennedy hard last week.
That really seemed like a gimme. I don't know. Like, I know that's probably very disrespectful, but we talked about it. I didn't see a path of victory for Jeremy Kennedy. His only path of victory was to hold Kennedy up against
really super strong.
It just wasn't going to happen.
Who was way shorter.
But Moras has a path to victory here. I'm taking on a Czechoslovakian. Well, you can't call him Czechoslovakia anymore. I think they separated 40 years ago. She's taking on a Czech fighter, or she's Slovakian.
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. She's taking on a Czech fighter.
Geography not known with Cody Saftic.
Well, I called someone Czechoslovakian the other day, and they were pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a sauna at a local pool. Pissed, Paul.
It's only been like, what?
40 years?
70 years or so.
Was it? They said 40. Anyways, Sarah Moras actually has a path to victory here, and that's get the fight to the ground, because we don't fully know how good Pudilova is on the ground. We've seen her bits and pieces on the ground, and it wasn't like it was fantastic, whereas Moras went out there against Ashley Evans-Smith, and that's a much tougher level opponent. Pulled guard, got a submission. It was like, oh, man.
She has...
Ashley Evans-Smith's tough,
I don't doubt if it gets to the ground that it's danger. But I just don't know if... Moras doesn't really have the takedowns that I've seen. And Moras, you go through all of her opponents. It's just like, she took on Dufresne. It's just like, well, she ended up, quote unquote, winning that fight, which she didn't. I was live for that one. That was awful.
Worst fight ever. That's why they cut Dufresne.
She stayed, quote unquote, busy from bottom. It's just like, like, I wanted both of them cut immediately after seeing that fight.
As bad as Dufresne is, and she's really bad, and she never makes weight. She missed weight for that fight, but she's a good grappler. I mean, she stunned Marloes Kunin in Bellator, and if anything,
she should have won that fight.
She should have won that fight.
Moras did not win that fight.
She did not win that fight.
That was ridiculous.
But Sarah Moras also took a long time off after that fight. She's one of these fighters that doesn't fight all that often, so you have to assume she's adding tricks to her game.
The Ashley Evans-Smith fight, like, I saw someone who pulled guard and was able to get an arm bar from guard. Like.
And do you think Pudilova is better than Ashley Evans-Smith? Do you think her submission defense is better?
No, not grappling, but I don't think.
So then this is a close fight.
But I don't see Pudilova pushing forward against her like Ashley Evans-Smith did to give her the opportunity to pull guard like that. Yeah. I think Pudilova tries to stay at distance and throws punches. And I'll give Moras this: she is super tough, super durable. She took an absolute thrashing against Jessica Andrade, but. And she didn't quit, and she was beaten up, bloodied, battered. It was not a great night. But like she's very tough. She's gonna be able to take it.
And she took the back late in the third round. Come on, man. She's durable and she's tricky.
This fight goes over the number.
This
goes over 2.5 rounds unless Moras gets a submission.
Okay, fair. Agree to disagree. I'm gonna take Moras. I can see. I 100% see why you're taking Pudilova. All I gotta say though is, if you're playing DK,
I don't really want either side.
The line plus 150, I get it. But if Sarah Moras can lock up a submission, if she can get a submission, $7,700. Those are the kind of plays that help you win the big GPP.
Sure.
Because you're saving a lot of money, and this girl at least has the potential to finish.
Yeah, fair enough. We got Alex Morono, 8,800, taking on Josh Burkman. Morono is, minus 275 favorite. Berkman is plus 235. I don't know if I even said that Burkman was 7,400 on DraftKings. I think I may have skipped over that in that spot. The real question here, it's almost like the Thiago Alves fight. How done is Josh Berkman? Because he looks real done. How does he still have a job? Is that the other question?
That's the real question. Paul, I was shocked. Shocked. To be honest, I'm not even lying with you here, right? When I first saw it was announced, I thought it was on the regional card, like the regional scene.
When I saw,
I was like, it's plausible that Morono doesn't have a job anymore, and it's very possible.
When I saw that it was on the UFC card, I was just like, Josh Berkman totally has nudes of Dana White or something. Like, how else? Like, he's got something on Dana White. The guy's, what, 1-6 in his last 7 fights, loser of his last 4? And he's not getting paid, like, he's getting paid pretty well. He came over as a World Series of Fighting champion over to here. Like, he's not getting peanuts to get sparked in the first round by Drew Dober and Prezeris absolutely mauled him.
Yeah. Well, 1-6.
And that's the trick here.
1-6 in his last 7, but technically he's 1-7 in his last 8 because of the Hector Lombard no contest, right?
Yeah, fair.
So he's getting slapped silly, and at this point his durability shot.
It's gone.
Dober, Prezeris, it's like, okay, big strong guy, and it was a submission. The Dober, he got knocked out, and then prior to that, Zach Otto, unheralded at the time, takes a fight on a week's notice, and even though it's close, it shouldn't have been close. Zach Otto beat this guy. Clean. Beat this guy. It's like the last time he won a fight was over also shot KJ Noons. Like, it's terrible time to be in the Josh Burkman business. And I like Josh Burkman. Tough season 2 veteran. Always been a fan of this guy. Goes out there. There was a time where he brought it, He had good wrestling. He was super strong. Used to be a running back out of Utah, so he kind of transitioned over to MMA, and he was athletic for the time. He was well-rounded for the time. I remember his fight with Mike Swick, headlined a fight night card way back in the day. Me and my buddy watched, and we both were like, dude, this Burkman guy lost the fight. This Burkman guy trying a 360 roundhouse kick, like, super athletic, super fun. We like Josh Burkman. Banged Ariane Celeste. High five, Burkman. Good time.
He's lived a good life.
He's lived a good life. Unfortunately, once again, like we talk about this theme of fighters who are shot. And what do you do after you're shot? Well, you kind of got to move over to that next part of your life. But Burkman gets paid fairly well. And once again, if you're the UFC, you're in Texas. And I've talked about the fact that I like a lot of these Texas fighters. We've got Morono, who's fairly exciting. He's also had a bad couple performances. The Nico Price fight, he wasn't fighting bad.
No. The problem is his durability as well. I don't know if this guy can take much of a punch. And if nothing else, Burkman doesn't throw very much. But what he does throw has some decent heat behind it. Not that he's knocked out anybody, because he can't take a punch himself. So usually guys don't really survive. But the only path to victory is a lucky shot from Josh Burkman in this spot.
I don't see it. The last time I thought he looked good, and dude, we never do this. I never do this. 2 greasy theory alerts in the same show never happens. But I'm gonna tell you one.
Greasy theory alerts like every fight, it seems.
Nah, once a card, Paul. Once a card.
Pretty much every fight.
The last time Burkman looked good was John Fitch, World Series of Fighting, where he landed some hellacious punches, and then it caught him, choked him unconscious with a guillotine choke. A lot of money came in on Burkman by submission in that fight. A lot of money on the first round prop on Burkman.
Greasy theory.
The rumor has it was John Fitch that bet it. They said it's a fixed fight.
So like Hugo Viana?
Yeah, like Hugo Viana. No, that fight is regarded as a potential.
The most fixed ever.
Well, I didn't believe it because I was like, that's not how you work a fight, man. He got blasted with a 3-piece combination that rocked him, and then he got choked unconscious. It's not how you work a fight. Then think about it. That's how you work a fight, dog.
Exactly.
That's how you do it. That shit looked legit.
That nobody would ever take that type of punishment to work a fight. They would just do a little, like, give up their neck, like, go for a takedown, get guillotined, tap, tap, tap. But then that looks like you're working the fight.
Looked legit. So anyways, since that moment, he's looked bad. I mean, he beats Tyler Stinson. I like Tyler Stinson. He beat Tyler Stinson. He gets signed to the UFC. He's looked really bad since. But we talk about the durability being gone. It is gone. Morono's in Texas. Once again, they're trying to feed these local Texas fighters. They're trying to get them a big win, trying to get them that big pop. And if anything, I don't question Morono's durability quite as much because he gets hit, he gets hurt, but he comes back. And the thing is, dude, he just pushes a great pace. And the
fight against Nakamura, he came out hard right at the beginning. He came out, lots of pressure, trying to make it a scrap immediately. Keita Nakamura is tough, durable, maybe not the right guy to do that against.
No.
He comes out the same way with that type of fast, furious pace against Josh Burkman, like Prezeris did.
Yeah, man.
And you can spark him, you can finish him, and it can be a short night. I like Alex Morono. I think Josh Burkman is so unbelievably washed. I think it's completely done. It sounds like you're on the same side as me here as well.
I'm on the same page. Morono, because he just swings wild-ass punches, that's kind of what he seems like. The guy's a BJJ black belt.
Yeah.
In Texas. Runs an academy out there. Pretty tough guy. He's got the keys to beat Burkman. However, and I know people are going to say, Cody, don't say it. I don't like the value here, dude.
No, I don't either.
Like, it's Burkman, I get it, but that's the only reason he's 275.
Yeah.
You could put anybody in the UFC, anybody in this division against Burkman, they're at least 275. That's the only reason he's getting this price tag. I don't know if it's necessary.
I don't like the price tag either, but
I don't know.
I see the DraftKings potential here just for a one-sided first-round drubbing.
Because he could get the job done on the ground. He could get the job done standing. He could just put volume on him for 3 rounds.
Yep.
I'm going to call up John Fitch and see which way he's going.
Yeah. Finally, we got Oscar Piechota taking on Tim Williams. 9,100 Piechota, 7,100 Tim Williams, minus 280 Piechota, plus 240. Williams, what's your take?
I've been following Tim Williams a long time. New Jersey guy, New Jersey Strangler. The guy, like, this is no joke. If there was anybody on this card who I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley, and Derek Lewis included, Tim Williams, dude.
Yeah.
The guy looks like a serial killer. It looks like he's killed at least 3, maybe 4 people, probably buried them in planters around the city because he probably used to work a landscaping job. Now,
definitely.
Tim Williams, and he's a South Jersey Strangler is his nickname.
That's his name.
Man, this guy is.
He's living the gimmick.
I ain't messing with this guy. And he was on a great run. He gets onto the Ultimate Fighter. He took on Dylan Andrews. I thought he was locked. Watched that season of Tough with my buddies. I said, yo, Tim Williams, the guy's tough. Watch him get this job done. Loses to him. Okay. Rebuilds himself back up slowly. Has a nice record. Gets a second shot against Diego Lima. How many guys get 2 cracks at the Ultimate Fighter, right? Actually, a fair bit. Loses. Same thing. Now, Diego Lima, not that bad. Tim Williams just keeps reinventing himself, man. He's taken on a host of washed-up UFC veterans, but all the same, he takes on tough UFC-level opposition on the regional seat for CFFC, and he's a tough guy. My only problem is that Tim Williams normally has to rely on taking you down and trying to sub you or just controlling you, and that's not going to happen against Oscar Piechota. Oscar Piechota is a BJJ black belt. He beat Vinny Magalesh at the ADCC.
His nickname in Polish means vice.
He's taken on like Team Cornelius and lives to tell the tale. Like, the guy is no joke.
Not as in like vice, as in I have a heroin addict, heroin addiction. As in when I get a hold of you, I'm like a vice and I rip you to the ground.
Yeah, and then his last fight against Jonathan Wilson, it's like, okay, well, Wilson's a good striker.
Is he stronger than Williams? Before we came in here, I said that there was one fighter that I really liked.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at it, because I was thinking Pichota's going to get a lot of takedowns. He's going to go for it. And when I started really watching some tape on Williams, I was just like,
Williams is no joke,
This is actually not that easy. This could be, and I give a massive advantage to Piechota on the feet. He's got some power. In his debut, he was able to drop right at the end of round 2. Who was his debut against?
Jonathan Wilson.
Yeah, Jonathan Wilson. Good striker. He handled himself well on the feet.
For sure.
And when he got the fight to the ground, he was like, he would jump on top of it, try to get to, he got to submissions attempts very quickly. Very aggressive grappler. I don't know if all those paths are going to be open against Tim Williams. That's where Tim Williams likes it. Yeah. But on the feet, I favor Piechota like quite a bit. Don't get me wrong. I just worry from a DraftKings perspective, 9,100. If you're trying to get Piechota hoping that this turns into a bunch of takedowns and grappling and passes and everything like that, all of that stuff that scores tons on DraftKings, this could just end up being a kickboxing match between 2 guys. And Williams is tough enough to kind of hang around, and I don't know if Piechota has enough volume on his feet to really pay back that $9,100 price tag.
Yeah, well, see, there's the thing. It's a big price tag, and I think if you're Piechota, your best path to victory is use your submission game. That's what you do better than anybody. Well, at this level, anyways. This is what...
But is he going to be able to do it against Williams?
No, see, Tim Williams is a tough grappler as well, right? And if the fight stays standing, then I do favor Piechota. Piechota against Jonathan Wilson, his gas tank didn't look all that good, right? And he's getting a hometown effort in that fight, right?
He had the crowd around, everyone's cheering every time he does everything.
Exactly.
Like, that gives you energy.
Exactly, right? So now I feel, okay, it's a sophomore debut, or is a sophomore outing here. He's going to probably be a little bit better. He's got the octagon jitters out of the way. He's got a UFC win under his belt. He used to just finish everybody. I think he had finished all of his fights prior to the Jonathan Wilson fight, where it's like, okay, I need to settle into a rhythm here, save a little bit of energy. But my only reason why I like him, and I don't know why I use my line all throughout, I don't like the price tag minus 280, but if the fight stays standing, I like Piechota. If the fight hits the ground, I like Piechota. So how could you not back Piechota here, right? Williams is going to want to get some takedowns and control this guy. I just don't know that he's going to be able to keep him down the entire time.
Fair.
And if the fight stays standing, Pichota's just going to be coming forward on him and throwing some strikes. It's like you were talking
about... I just don't know
if
Piechota is going to be able to control him. I just don't know if he's physically stronger than Tim Williams.
No, but he's a lot lankier, and he's got, I don't know.
We'll see being lankier doesn't help you in a lot of grappling exchanges all that much. Think about, it's usually the short guy. Short guy usually has the leverage in most grappling exchanges, wrestling.
Yeah, fair enough. But, yeah, well, see, that's the tricky part here, okay? If Tim Williams was to compete against Vinny Magalhaes at the ADCCs, he would get subbed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If he was to go against Keenan Cornelius, I think that match was 6 minutes long. Most of the time, Keenan Cornelius is on Pichota's back. There's no way he survives. Piechota is a better grappler, but this isn't a grappling match. This is an MMA match. And if he can settle up and guard and just avoid any type of transition and pound away, steal some rounds, he could get it. And that's why for the minus 280 price tag, I just don't like it. Because I think that there are paths to victory for Tim Williams. He's no slouch. I've been following this guy for a long time. He's a tough dude. It's just this is a tough first fight to get drawn into. Because in my opinion, Pichota's better than Dylan Andrews, and he's better than Diego Lima. And those are the two guys that you lost to try to get onto tough. And now you're getting the big dance on a big card.
Fair. He's
also going to face some octagon jitters that Pichota's probably worked out of the way. I just think Pichota's got the elements all around that he should be able to get the victory. But again, this card is very much terrible price tags and dogs that I like, but I'm hesitant to pull the trigger on. So it's going to be a very interesting card. I don't think anybody gets this 12 for 12, hits every single fight, because there's landmines laced right across this thing. Fights that look obvious aren't obvious, and fights that, you know, you think that the dog might not have a shot, he definitely does. So we'll see what happens, Paul. I'm very interested in this card for sure. My Tout Master, I'm sitting like, what, 35th?
It's a marathon, not a race, let's be honest.
Paul, let's face it, neither of us have ever ran a marathon.
This is true. This is true. All right, so
I need to race up to the top.
To summarize kind of quickly here in terms of the people that I like, I'm targeting on DraftKings. I'm avoiding Piechota. From what I watched on tape, I'm just not feeling it. I don't want it to turn into a striking matchup with the price tag of 91. I would rather pay up for all the Jared Gordon. I'm all over it. Sure, he's probably going to be chalk. The guy scores. He delivers every single time. He's taking on another pressure guy. So I want all the Jared Gordon. A little bit of both sides of the Sanchez versus Sanchez fight. I'm leading towards Joby, but I think it's going to be a fight to target. Morono can probably spark Josh Burkman. It doesn't take much to spark him. Plus, Morono's going to have the hometown crowd behind him, cheering him on, getting him going. A little bit of Sage Northcutt because he can score and he can get Tebow. We've seen Tebow, Gouti struggle to get
if Pecklin's dropping,
to take punches, right? Steve Peterson, durability, maybe a little bit of wrestling. There's a little dog guy in the mix. Maybe a sprinkle of Trinaldo, and I'm hoping for a little Donald Cowboy Cerrone to get some of these takedowns. I know that Yancey, it's a big leverage play because
tapping the desk.
Apparently, you gotta stop tapping the desk, Paul.
It doesn't actually bother me all that much. But Donald Cowboy Cerrone, I'm hoping he comes across and gets the takedowns.
Yeah,
he gets the takedowns, and we are looking good.
Yeah, once again, and I know it's just close fights the whole way through, really, but yeah, Donald Cerrone, minus 150, 8,400, I'd take that play. Lewis Tybura, more than likely a pass. Kind of leaning Lewis, though. James Vick over Trinaldo, don't like the price, but I like Vick. Millender, that'll be a dog play for me. I'm going to take Millender, and I'm going to just have faith that he's able to outstrike a shot version of Thiago Alves. Brendan Davis, I love Steven Peterson, but he's just so wide open that he's going to get hit. Very easy to hit. Brendan Davis, if he just sticks and move, does what he is comfortable at doing, he should be able to pull this off. But again, minus 190 on the money line, 8,700 on DraftKings. Probably avoid that one as far as that's concerned. Sage Northcutt gets the job done. Very expensive. Jared Gordon, pretty expensive, but I think he gets the job done. Neal's got to get that first round finish. If he doesn't get the first round finish, it's like sand in the hourglass. It's like, oh, is he waiting to get finished? Who knows? But I think he should be able to get the job done. Roberto Sanchez, Joby Sanchez, going to be a close fight. Joby keeps the fight standing. He's a better striker. Pudilova, Sarah Moras. There's another dog pick for me. I'm going to take Sarah Moras to just hopefully secure some takedowns, make this a grappling affair. If it is a grappling affair, she's a better grappler. If it's a striking affair, she's going to get beat up. But she's very, very tough and durable. How many people take a beating from Andrade for 3 rounds and at the end of the 3rd round are riding her on her back trying to get the submission still? This girl's no joke. She's getting better. She's got a great team around her. Alex Morono, Burkman, come on. It's 2018. You can't have any fights in Josh Burkman whatsoever. And Oscar Piechota versus Tim Williams. Honestly, you're talking me off the Piechota a little bit because, once again, it's easy to get talked off when the price is just not right on him. And Tim Williams is no joke. I just don't really see where Piechota is going to blow this, but all the same, he's coming to America, and it's going to be a tough fight, so we'll see what happens.
That is it for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. I want to thank Cody Saftic breaking down all the fights with me. I want to thank Pat Mayo for doing all the sweet cuts behind the glass before he yelled at me for tapping on the desk a whole bunch. For both of those guys, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.